Top of the morning to you, Jim Holley here with you on this Saturday morning. If it is a Saturday morning, it is Hello Detroit with Reverend Jim Holley. Once again, we say good morning to you, and we thank God for each and every one of you. Have a beautiful program planned for you today, so don't you go anywhere. First of all, I just want you to know how grateful we are. People don't have to be nice when they are. At least you want to do is say thank you. And certainly we want to thank you for your encouragement. We want to thank you for your loyalty and your support down through the years. And certainly in these last 2 or 3 weeks, because we had a lot of changes taking place, and you've been there for us right through it all. And we just want you to know we're not taking it for granted. We really know there's a lot of options you have on this television and with your remote. So we just want you to know we're grateful and very thankful. Let me just let you know not only what we have in store for you today, but also let you know how we can basically get to you and you to get to us. First of all, we're going to let you know that we have the telephone numbers, and you'll be able to give us a call based upon the subject matter that we are discussing this morning. But also I want you to know that we are talking about, we're on Comcast 20. And so if you want to call someone, and if they have Comcast in Detroit, Highland Park, or in Hamtramck, you let them know that they can watch us right here from 8 to 10 this morning, Comcast 20. But also, for those of you listening by way of internet, as you know, WHPR, WHPS have basically gone internet. And they said this is the way of the future. And I'm sure that it is. It's just that I'm just, I'm a dinosaur. I'm just basically, I just like television, waiting, I guess, to understand all of this stuff in terms of social media and all of that. But nevertheless, WHPR and WHPS is going internet. And so you can get us channel 33. If you don't have Comcast, you can get channel 33, or you can go to TV33, WHPR.com. TV33, WHPR.com. So that's where it sets up. But also you can whether you're doing by internet or by telephone, or rather by television, you can call us. The area code is 313-868-0342, 868-0351, 868-443. So I think that indeed that's where we are. That's the update, and of course we want to make sure that we get into you and that you basically can get to us. So you need to know we've been doing this about 3 weeks now, because basically WHBR has, as I said, gone internet and not television, and therefore Church Network TV has basically brought the time that you might watch us on Comcast 20. And so a lot of changes will be taking place, but I just want you to know that indeed, if you, and it worked out very well last week and the week before, and so we hope that it'll work out today as well. And so once again, we just thank God for each and every one of you. What you know is 22 days in the month of June. That's right, the year is still the same, 2019. But I mean, we're really through June already. It just, where does it go, the time? The 6th month of this year. And also, we don't know that indeed the high today is going to be about 78 for the high today. Right now, it's about 56, 57 degrees downtown Detroit. The high tomorrow is going to be about 80. And a good day tomorrow. And then on Monday, we're talking about the fireworks, and they're looking for some rain. And hoping and praying that indeed that the fireworks will go off well, because we will have some rain on Monday and scattered, heavy during the day, and perhaps at nighttime the Lord will bless us with good weather so that we can have the fireworks. So that's the way it is in terms of weather, and hope that wherever you are, your weather is going very, very well. My grandmother used to say, any day above ground is a good day. So if you're above ground, and you are, it is a good day. So we just want to let you know that we want you to know that indeed that everything is going well for this weekend as far as the weather is concerned. Program-wise, I just want you to know that we're going to talk about foster care for the first segment of our program this morning. Do you know there's 13,000 to 14,000 children in foster care in the state of Michigan, and about 6,000 to 7,000 in Wayne County, in the Wayne County area? Do you know that? And we don't even talk about it. We don't even talk about it. Every now and then I do, but we don't even talk about it. It doesn't even seem to be on a political agenda. It doesn't seem to be on the preacher's agenda. It doesn't seem to be on the principal's agenda. It doesn't seem to be on the politics agenda. And we're talking, and then get this, almost 500,000 foster care children in the United States. 500,000. And so we're going to talk about that, and basically, how can we really diminish that number, and how can we really help? And so we have a couple of beautiful young ladies coming in to talk about foster care, and then also after that, we're going to talk a little bit about political accountability. Where is it? Where is it? Are you really satisfied as Democrats as we are in the city of Detroit for the most part, in Highland Park and also in Hamtramck? Are you really satisfied with the way this thing is going? I mean, the emphasis where they are in Washington, and it doesn't seem to talk about anything about us. We got education. Our education is crumbling in the state of Michigan, and certainly as well in Southeast Michigan. Talking about seniors are still having problems. They're being able to trying to basically determine the medicine versus their food. And all of those, we got issues, infrastructure issues, housing issues, job skill issues, all of those. And nobody seems to be talking about anything but other than what we need to be dealing with here in the city of Detroit and in the state of Michigan. So we're talking about political accountability. Where are we with this? Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied? And when you look around, my sisters and brothers, and certainly with the things that's going on at the border and things that basically going on in terms of immigration, and realize, my sisters and brothers, that in 2020, the political landscape is that the Hispanics will have a more impact on the president election than African Americans. Will basically will not really be a major factor in 2020, and then in 2024, 2030, we're basically Hispanics will be the majority of the population, whites will be minority, and blacks will be minority. We'll be second minority to the whites. Understand what's going on, and you feel like indeed that what's the future of our children? What's the future of us? And we are basically, when I say us, I'm talking about African Americans in terms of what's going on with the prison population. And speaking of prison population, that's our third segment, and that is in terms of the 3,000 businessmen and women that are coming together nationwide to be able to train and hire people, ex-offenders. About 3,000 basic businesses, African-American businesses for the most part, men and women coming together to make sure that indeed our men and women that's coming out of prison will have training as well as a skill, as well as a job when they get their skill. It's a lot to talk about, a lot to do, and I just want you to know it's just good to be with you. So whatever you do, we're going to take a break and certainly pay some bills with our commercials. And when we come back, we want you to talk. We're going to talk about foster care, where we are with it in the state of Michigan, where are we with it in southeastern Michigan, and how you and I can really help for our children and what's going on. And for the most part, we want to educate you in terms of what you can do and to make this thing better. It's good to be with you on this Saturday morning. Thank God for each and every one of you, and whatever you do, understand I love you and nothing you can do about it. I'll be right back.
Say a little prayer for you, and I will always care for you. Hello, Detroit.
You can have your own party on TV. Party with R.J. Watkins and the TV33 family when you hold your own Facebook watch party. Connect all your friends with our friends, and we can have a watch party together. Watch your favorite TV shows when you want, how you want, with your favorite people. Here's how it works. Log on to Facebook from your computer or tablet and go to the RJ Watkins fan page at facebook.com/TV33WHPR, the one with the blue WHPR logo on the left. Like us. Click the word videos with the red tag that says live next to it. Then click the share button at the bottom of the video player and select start a watch party. Invite whoever you want. Your party will be recorded and archived for playback anytime you want. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. At the end of the month, the viewer that has the most people at their watch party will be invited on the TV show live. Come on, let's have a party.
Today's energy in all large buildings are controlled through an energy management system. In this program, learning microprocessing and electronics is very valuable. These skills are a global skill. To be able to make a building function, just a phenomenal feeling. I'm faculty and I teach HVAC, furnace, hydronics, refrigeration. There's just some phenomenal people here. Coming to this college, no one ever turned me down to help promote me in my career and promote young people in our community as well as women. I would implore anyone from the community to take advantage of this educational opportunity. It's still affordable and provides a great lifestyle. You grow a confidence and you grow it from being educated.
You've seen him on the red carpet, you've seen him on the sidelines, you've seen him on the stage. The hottest looks in urban fashion from the biggest name in urban fashion, Van Dykes. Now pick out 3, pay for 1. 3 suits for 1. Van Dykes, 10 Mile and Southfield Road. You've seen him at the clubs, you've seen him in the boardroom, you've seen him on the pulpit. Now get them at Van Dykes. 3 suits for 1. Suits for the workplace, for the club scene, to be seen in. Pick out 3, pay for 1. Van Dykes, 10 Mile and Southfield Road.
Say a little prayer for you, and I will always care for you. Hello, Detroit.
And top of the morning to you again. Jim Holley here with you on this Saturday morning. And if you're just joining us, we basically let you know that we got a beautiful program that's in store for you this morning. So hopefully that you'll be listening. Hope that you take notes, get pencil and paper, and also that you'll be able to call in if it's a question that you'd like to ask in regards to foster care. Again, let me just repeat this in terms of the statistics. One, and that is that we talk of almost 14,000 children in foster care in the state of Michigan. Let me just say that again, almost 14,000 children in foster care in the state of Michigan. In southeastern Michigan, in Wayne County, we're talking about 6,000 plus children, 6,000 plus children. Some cities in Michigan basically have 5,000 or 6,000 people in a city. And when you're talking about 14,000 children, that's comprise a whole city in terms of population. And then the other thing I want you to know, we're talking about nationwide, 500,000 in nationwide. And here we are, and we don't even talk about it. Well, we obviously should talk about homicide, we talk about the other issues in education, all of that. But when it comes down to foster care, you don't hear much about it at all on the political landscape, even on the social landscape at all. And I just want to make sure that indeed we talk about it today and that you will never forget this conversation that we're having today with these 2 young ladies that we brought in. And so this one, I want to invite Ms. Petway, and to my far right, and then close to me is Miss Miller, Star Allen Petway, who is the branch director of Southeastern Michigan. Bethany is the name of the foster care agency. And then Misty Parker Miller is the recruitment specialist of the same agency of Bethany. Welcome, both of you. Welcome to being with us this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Let me again. Am I right about these statistics that we start off the program with, Ms. Petway?
Yes, absolutely. So I think the way that I try to describe that and say it so that people get a better understanding of like the true impact is that in the state of Michigan, we have 82 counties. And when you think about the total statistics of over 13,000 kids in foster care, and half of those kids coming from Wayne County just about is pretty significant.
Right.
We have a shortage of homes. We definitely need more homes for these children to better support their needs when they come into the foster care system.
Right. And Misty, of course, your job in terms of recruiting, recruiting special, but not only recruiting, but you basically have adopted children and have foster children. So you basically, I mean, you not only bring in terms of the professionalism, but also the practical, the piece in terms that you've really been through this. Yes. But before we get to all of that, what is it that got you into this kind of work in the first place?
As you
A little louder.
Okay. As you mentioned, my husband and I were foster parents for about 10 years, and we didn't realize how tremendous the need was at the time. We just knew we wanted to help children who were hurting, and there was never a lack of children coming into our home. This was back in the early 90s when crack was decimating our communities, destroying our families, and so many children were coming into care as a result of the parents being involved with drugs. And so we had over 50 children come through our home during those 10 years, and we ended up adopting 3 of those children. Because unfortunately with drugs especially, it's very hard for families to overcome the impact of drugs, to be able to create a safe environment for their children to return home to. Because the goal of foster care is really for children to be reunited with their birth parents. That's the goal. But if the situation, like I said, is drug related, the children are coming into care because of drug use of the parents, it's hard for many of them to overcome that. And so unfortunately then the parents' parental rights will be terminated, and those children will come up for adoption. And as the foster parent, you do have the first option to adopt those children. And so as a result of that, the impact it had on our family, we had 3 birth children at the time. They were 7, 4, and 1. So our children grew up with foster siblings. And that was a wonderful experience for them, because as parents, you want your children to learn how to be kind and to share and compassionate. And the children learned all of that, sharing their home and family and everything with foster siblings. So for us, it was a very good experience, but a very needed situation. And so I'm very thankful that when it came to me becoming employed, Bethany had a position available, and I was able to become a foster care manager at that time, and it was dear to my heart. It was something I was very passionate about, because our children need to be embraced, our children need to be loved. Those who are in unsafe situations, because most kids coming into care are coming in due to neglect. And some abuse, but primarily neglect. And our children need to be embraced.
Let me ask you, Star, based on what I'm hearing from Misty in terms of this, for example, it's almost like the stereotype is that the children are bad.
Absolutely.
That's the reason why we don't want to have the children in our home. But it's not that children are bad, it's bad parenting.
Absolutely. I mean, these kids
am I right?
Yes, absolutely. These kids have experienced some bad things. They've experienced some situations that are not kind to them. So when you think about the impact of that level of trauma, if I'm being neglected, if I don't have food to eat, if I don't have adequate shelter, those things are significant. It would be significant for any one of us. So to think, you know, a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old kid going through that, and going through that consistently. Sometimes it's not one incident, it's 2 incidents, it's 3 incidents, it's 4 incidents. So experiencing that over and over again can be very traumatic for a child. So I definitely want to emphasize that these are not bad children. They've had bad experiences.
I got you. If you're just joining us, my sisters and brothers, we're talking to Star Petway on my far left, and near to me is Misty Miller. And what we're talking about is foster care. And we'll go to the phones certainly in a few minutes, and you're welcome to give a call and ask questions in regards to foster care. But this is what we're talking about this morning, and basically trying to see how we get the information to you, and perhaps somebody that might be interested in adopting or being a foster care a parent, a provider. And so again, just want you to stay with us and don't leave us, and sit and understand how important this subject matter really is. Back to you, Star. So when you really talking about the agency in terms of children coming to you, and obviously what I hear Misty is saying is that the whole idea is to put the children back with the parent.
Absolutely.
But somehow is something going on to help the parents in the agency, to help the parents that basically reason why the children were taken away from them in the first place?
Yes. So every foster child is attached to a foster care case manager who is responsible for managing that case. So they are working with the birth parents to identify resources. So if it's, they need housing, or they need access to food, or they need clothing, or they don't quite know how to pay their bills appropriately, if they need employment. So that case manager is kind of working with them through identifying ways to achieve all of those things to ensure that their children are able to return home. I think the unfortunate thing is that we're not always successful in that, unfortunately.
Right, sure.
So even if a child is unable to return to their family of origin, we want a child to be connected with family.
Yeah, right.
And if that means, that they have to be adopted because they cannot return home, we want to make sure that we have families available to support them in that way.
Let me just follow up with that, Star, because in my day, when I say my day, when I was growing up, and when my mother couldn't take care of us, we went to our grandmother.
Yes.
And somehow that next step, where grandparents really step in, and many of them do. Many of them really do. I thank God for grandparents.
Absolutely.
But somehow that is changing, because now you're talking about grandmothers that may be 29 years old or 30 years old. They've got a lifestyle of their own.
Sure.
And want to party and have a good time, or looking for a husband, or looking for basically a career. So what's going on with that?
So I think what I would say is that when we think about people that have been hurt people hurt people. And even sometimes when it is our own family and our own children, and they don't realize the impact of that behavior.
Yeah.
So it typically is a cycle where you see, birth parents that have been abused and neglected, and now they're abusing and neglecting their own children. So our hope is that with our work that we're able to intervene with these families and break that cycle to prevent this from happening over and over again.
Yeah. Mr. In terms of this, a lot of times I feel I just feel it. I don't necessarily have no statistics to prove it, but a lot of times, and this is what we don't want, obviously, but how do you, as recruiting, how do you stay away from this? For example, where a foster parent is really about the money rather than about the child.
Okay.
How do you differentiate that person, and try to make sure that this home is really a loving home, and not really it's not doing it for economic reasons, but for love reasons?
That's a very good question. Bethany Christian Services is a Christian child welfare agency, and so most of my recruiting is done through the churches, and we present the work that we do as a ministry. As you said, we want the children to come into a loving, stable, nurturing home for these children to be embraced. And so our prayer is that if we're recruiting from the churches, we're getting Christian families who will view this as a ministry. And there is a licensing process that families have to go through. And so they have to be fingerprinted and clearances are run. And then our licensing workers spend a lot of time getting to know the families and to, like you say, to get an idea of the heart of the family, and that people are doing this because they really do want to help children.
Sure.
And with foster care, these children have been traumatized. They've been hurt. And so we need families who are willing to help these children to heal.
Right.
And the good thing is the children can heal
Yeah.
if they have that kind of stable, loving environment.
But you know, Misty, I've been in this business for a long time. I'm 150 years old. So, you know, we got some good people in churches and we've got some bad people in churches. Of course, we're trying to make sure that the good people become, the bad people become good and the good people become better. So, I mean, you because you, even with that, so there's a process.
Yes.
But it's say that it falls through. For example, I came with I saw a kid on the street, and I think I told you about it. And I felt like he'd been abused. I felt like also that he didn't go to school. Are you following me?
Yes.
And obviously, in any situation, any bureaucracy or any system, it falls. People fall through the crack. But my understanding is, especially with Bethany, is that the reputation and how you really work to make sure that the follow up and that the agency don't forget about the children just because you placed them. So help me with that.
Yes, well, every month there has to be the foster care case manager goes out to the home and, you know, just does a little checkup with the child and with the family.
Interview the kid too to make sure that.
Yes, they speak with the child, and this is done alone, you know.
Right.
And also every week the children are coming into the agency to meet with their birth parents. It's called a parenting time visit.
Right.
So that's another point of checkup, because then we're able to meet with the foster parent at that time when the children are meeting with their birth parents.
I got you.
And and the foster care case manager is able to, if they sense that something is not quite right, there what we call them special evaluations that are done, because everything is done according to policy with us. It is, to be a foster parent, you are licensed by the state.
Gotcha.
And so there are certain policies and things you have to adhere to. And if you're not doing that as a foster parent, then our responsibility is to work with you on that, do a corrective action plan. But if you do not cooperate with that, then there are other discipline measures that are taken.
Right. Again, I just want to make sure that you know that we're talking to Star, who's on my far right, and Misty next to me. And what we're talking about foster care. And I just want to make sure that indeed you will have opportunity to ask questions. And I'm just basically trying to get as much information to each and every one of you and out of this interview. And so I just ask for your patience while there. But we're talking about foster care, indicating that my sister's brother in Michigan alone, we're talking about almost 14,000 children in foster care, some 6,000 to 7,000 that's in the Wayne County all by itself, and of course those are African American children for the most part, and when we talk about 70% of the prison population are men, 14% of our kids, 14,000 of our kids are in foster care. You got 8 out of 10 homicides are committed by African Americans on African Americans. We can go on and on and on. And somehow, some kind of way, Star, I just feel like these things they're basically are neglected. And it's not only political or the social or the moral agenda in terms of how we're going to deal with our own community, not only talking about just the community broadly, but our own community. Let me follow up with that, Star. Let me ask you this, because, you know, how do we have a greater percent of our children going back to their parents, or is it and if so, which is a good thing, how do you feel that's going on in terms of making sure they're reunited back to their parents because the healing is taking place, because you got to do the whole family. It's not just the kid.
Absolutely.
It's not just the parent. But you're talking about the wholeness, the holistic approach. So give me a comment on that.
Sure. So what the average statistic shows us is that when children come into care, about half of those kids return home to their family of origin, and the other half become available for adoption. It's my desire at Bethany to see our statistic improve because, as Missy mentioned, 50%, I'm sorry, about just the kids that are returning home.
Right.
We want to ensure that those families are adequately
Sure.
equipped to care
Right.
for their children.
Right.
I feel like we make a good attempt at
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But as a whole, within the state of Michigan, I
Right.
think we can do a better job. So I want to see for us, our statistic go from 50 to 60% and improve from there.
Give me when you talk about elect, Star, then is the elect because of drugs? In other words, if I had a priority list
Sure.
of the negative, is it drugs? Is it poverty? Is it the fact is just a lack of parenting skills, a budget, not making sure the kids get to school, transportation, men in the absence of fathers? Give me an assessment of really what really is going on to make sure that these children, not make sure, but these children are taken, why they're taken away from their families in the first place.
I think you got it. All of those things, a combination of all of those things happen when we see children that are coming into the system because of neglect. So it could be, a significant substance abuse issue. Domestic violence is another big one that we see and talk about. Children that have been sexually abused, not just by folks that are in the community, these are people that are close to them. So a combination of all of those things result in kids entering the foster care
Right, sure.
system.
And we're not talking about, Misty, that this is that we have a monopoly on this as African Americans. I'm sure this happens with all society, all ethnic groups, and I want to make sure that I say that. But being African American, I'm not anti anybody. I'm just pro us. So I'm just saying to you, then, from your standpoint, in terms of what I hear Ms. Petway saying. So how do you deal with that? Because I cannot see anybody taking my child. Mm-hmm. I remember when my wife died, when my daughter was 12 years old, and they felt like I couldn't take care of her because I was a man and so forth and busy schedule and all. I just come hell or high water, I cannot see anybody taking my child.
Yes.
So I imagine, and then when I went to a court situation where the judge asked the lady, you got a choice between the man who's in drugs, trafficking and drugs and paraphernalia and all of that, and you got two twin boys over here, and she chose the man. And I looked at those kids that they didn't understand what was really going on, but the fact is that they were not going home with their mama. Had to be a trauma, not just for the courtroom,
Right.
but had to be a trauma for the children
Yes.
to know that you're not going, mama, where is mama? Why I'm not with mama?
Yes. It's very, very traumatizing for a child, as you said, to be in that situation. Many times the children do not understand what's going on, why they're not going home with mama. What our community needs to understand is that anyone can make a complaint to Child Protective Services. So oftentimes they say a child is left home alone. A neighbor will call, because a neighbor can call Child Protective Services, a teacher, a doctor, anyone can make that complaint. And if a complaint comes into Child Protective Services, they have to investigate it. So if they come out to the home and they see that child is left alone, no supervision there, no adult supervision, they will say that it's not safe for that child to be in that home. And so they're going to, by court order, have that child removed and come into foster care. Our parents need to understand that. And if there is abuse going on, because they do an investigation, so many times if they go into the home and say there's no lights, there's no food in the home, things like that, that is considered neglect. And so it's not safe for the child to remain in that environment.
Caller, do you have a question for our guests? Caller, are you there? Okay, all right, then maybe I lost him. Or her. Again, those of you just listening, I just want you to know we're talking about foster care, and certainly want you to know that indeed that you may have questions, and I'm trying to ask the questions I think that you would want to ask yourselves with our guests. And of course, we're talking to Star Petway, the branch director of Southeastern Michigan for Bethany Foster Care, and then Misty Parker Miller, who is a recruitment specialist with the agency itself. And tell me, Star, a little bit about Bethany.
Sure. So Bethany is a global nonprofit organization. We have been in existence for more than 75 years. We started off caring for one child.
You mean foster care has been going on for 75 years?
With Bethany as an adoption agency.
Care, I mean, just foster care. This is not a 20th century thing. This is 18th century, 19th century stuff.
Sure. Yeah, this is not a new issue.
Are you really?
This is not a new issue.
Just trying to show you how naive I am. But tell me a little bit about this.
So we've been in existence for more than 75 years. Here in southeastern Michigan, we have been in existence for just about 35 years. So we provide services. I consider Bethany a child welfare agency where we provide social services to children and families around the globe. We have over 38 offices in the country and about 15 offices internationally.
Right.
So here in Michigan, our primary programs are foster care and foster care adoption. And we just want to continue to get the word out just about the need for homes to support these children that are coming into care.
And also know you have an office in Detroit now.
We do.
Okay.
So we opened an office in Detroit in February of this year. I probably just to kind of give a little bit of a backdrop to that. So with our office in southeastern Michigan, we've been here for 35 years, but we've always serviced children from the Detroit area. Right. About 60% of our children come from the Wayne County area, and we never had a place or an office in the city. So it was time for us to make that change to ensure that we're creating greater access to our services for the children and families that we're serving. So we're very excited about the new location and being able to create that access for families.
Misty Parker Miller, that's your name. Misty Parker Miller, recruitment specialist, recruitment specialist. So how many does your agency that you connected with serve? How many children do you serve right now? How many does the agency Bethany in southeastern this office, this branch? How many children do you serve? Families do you serve?
Now, Star might be better.
Yeah, so at our height, we have served 170 children in foster care, and right now we're just about at 150.
Okay, right. And it's just that's 150 amidst the 6,000 plus that's in the state of in Wayne County.
That is correct.
Right.
So for our organization as a whole, Bethany services almost 1,000 children in the state of Michigan. But I guess I want to call to light just the number of referrals that we see. Okay. So on average, every week for child welfare agencies, we're seeing anywhere from 50 to 70 referrals for kids that are in need of placement. So for us, we might be able to take one or two, sometimes none, if we don't have the homes to support it. So I just want to continue to emphasize the importance of that, because every time you see a kid on that referral list, sometimes it's over and over and over again because we can't find placements for them. So these are kids that are sitting in limbo with nowhere to go.
Yeah, and we want to talk about that, but I got some calls here. Caller, thank you for calling Hurry this morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Oh, okay. I am so happy for the two ladies, Star and Misty. I would like to invite you today, if you can come. It's called Save Our Children, and we'll be at the library, the main library on Cass. from
Okay.
11 to 5, and we will be serving food, but we're talking about the flip side of how the parents' rights are being invaded,
Yeah.
and how these children are being stuck in foster homes and put on psychiatric drugs. Do your agency help the family members to get these children instead of putting them in strangers' homes? Because we got a lot of cases where the children are being taken, the rights are being taken from the families and the parents, and they giving it to strangers that are not being monitored as much as they monitor the original family members.
Gotcha.
And so there are grandparents and aunties and uncles that are having a hard time to get these children when the parents are lacking in responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
If you could come at 11 today, we'll be there 11 to 5, and let us know about your agency, because we got the flip side of how government invasion is taking away parental rights, and these children are just being drugged.
Good. Thank you for the call as well, and we'll get to that. Caller, you in touch. Hurry this morning. Good morning. Caller, you in touch. Hurry this morning. Good morning. How are you?
Right. I wanted to know, I ain't trying to be prejudiced or nothing like that, but when they adopt kids, do it supposed to be a man and a woman dropping the kid, or do it supposed to be two men or two women adopting the kid? The reason why I brought that up, I think that there should be a man and woman adopting the kid instead of the same sex, because that confused the kid when the kid grow up. What's your opinion about that?
Okay, good, and it's a good question too, because it is a Christian agency. But do you have a rules and do you have rules prohibit that?
So maybe just to give a little bit of clarification, so our partnership and our ability to serve foster children is because of the contract that we have with the state of Michigan.
Right.
The state of Michigan requires, and that's for any agency, that any person who steps forward to be assessed to become a foster parent, that we assess those people. So we don't have the luxury anymore of being able
even
to
if it's a faith-based organization or
that
a Christian,
is correct.
Because the governor just signed a piece of legislation that basically you can't discriminate against anybody, and even to the point where they want to tell me who I can marry and who I can't marry. But
that
I'm
is
just saying
correct.
to you is that in other words, you are restrained by the state of Michigan. You've got to go by the law.
Correct.
I got you.
But I guess I would share what I shared with you. And here's the thing where I think the Christian community, the churches can really step up to the plate. So
Right.
from the statistics that I've seen in the state of Michigan, there are just a little under 10,000 churches. And there are over 13,000 children in foster care.
Right.
So if every church took one, two children,
Just one.
we'd eradicate this problem.
Right.
So I would just call to those folks that have a heart for this ministry, that have a heart for children, even where the caller talked about parents being in their rights being infringed on and things like that. I can't say that those things don't happen. So we definitely want to ensure that our families understand what this all means and how or where the resources and supports are.
And the thing about it, though, I would assume, Ms. Petway, and that is that when a child is taken from the family, they understand that there's a legal piece that's going on.
Absolutely.
So it's just not just I just snatch you up and take you out, but also that it's also where the whole family, the mother, uncles, aunties, all of those, in terms of come in play. And
Yes.
but in terms of basically, I think the caller before this caller was basically talking about they feel like that the new foster people get more rights than the parents do.
Sure.
And so, but help me with that.
So I want to emphasize, because that's important. I think that there is a misconception about the fact that families are excluded. even when a child comes into foster care, CPS, their first responsibility is to look for the next of kin
Right.
or relatives that can care for those children. If for any reason they cannot find someone, then they do place with a non-relative, but the
Right.
search for relative continues. Even at the point of termination of parental rights,
Right.
if an auntie or an uncle steps up and says, that's my nephew or
Right.
that's my niece, and I want to, be considered,
Yeah.
we as an agency, any child welfare agency, have to consider those
Yeah.
those relatives for placement for those children.
Misty, what is the, in other words, I lost my trying to get 2 or 3 questions at one time, and for old folk you can't do that. You could get everything, but when it comes down to the parents, and in terms of parental rights, and I mean, do they understand? Do they have? Is there probation period on this? Are they have chance to get themselves together, whatever it is? I mean, if you're really talking about a drug problem, that may be treatment, and I don't see that many treatment centers around Michigan, say southeastern Michigan. If you talk about the other thing, of course, is that what I found out in talking to 2 or 3 principals is that many of the children are raised by dysfunctional because the parents are their mental health
Yes,
issues.
that's another issue.
Mental health issues.
Yes.
And so if children are working out their behavior, misbehavior because they're raised by parents who may be suffering depression. I mean, mental health has a variety. You don't have to be like I am, just crazy, what you call crazy, but I'm just, you can have be depressed, a lot of issues. So I mean, and people don't understand. So are the agencies there to help you to get the parents back together so they can get their children?
Yes. When a child comes into foster care, we're not just working with the child, but we're working with the foster parents and with the birth parents. So our agency, we call them treatment plans with the birth family. So whatever the issues are, if it's drugs, we're working with them, drug rehab and all of that, therapy. All of our birth parents go to therapy, parenting classes. If there's been domestic violence, they're in domestic violence programs. So whatever the needs are to help the birth parents to overcome the issues that brought their children into care, that's what we're doing. We're working with them on that. And normally when a child comes into care, the state gives the birth parents about a year and a half to make progress. We know they might not be able to completely overcome the issues, but if they're making progress and showing that they, of course they want to be able to get their children back, they're willing to do what's necessary, the courts work with them. And so in about a year and a half, if the parents are showing progress and to the point where it's safe for the children to be reunited with the birth parents, then that's what happens.
If I got 100 children, if I got 100 parents I'm serving, 100 families, how many of those 100 would you say really trying to get their children back? Percentage of those kids where parents are really making the sacrifice, doing everything they can to get their children back. Out of 100 families, what would you say? Is it 60%? Is it they trying to get them back, or is it 60 that's not trying to get them back?
I'm probably going to be more optimistic in my statement, because I think depending on where people are, I would say 100% of them make an attempt, but they're making an attempt from a place that could be very dysfunctional. So if I'm a person who's used to experiencing domestic violence, or that's kind of my norm, I'm going to respond from a place that is probably dysfunctional to the average person. So I think in the mind of a parent, I think they all have a desire. They just might not know how to get there and how to do those things. So when you talked about, the resources, the lack of, where you don't see very many drug treatment facilities in southeastern Michigan, that is an issue. Like the resources are limited. So we're working with limited resources to attend to these over 6,000 kids and families in Wayne County.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to take a break in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to go overtime just a little bit because I want to talk about how the church can help, how nonprofit organizations can help, how we as a people can help.
Awesome.
And so we want to talk about, it's good to talk about the problem, but what's the solution?
Absolutely.
But a few weeks ago, a lady came to me with her boyfriend. I knew they wasn't married. I can tell. They were coming from a hotel. They were looking for some money. They had 5 kids, okay, 5 kids, and I'm making a point here, and so I hustled up the money to get them out of the hotel. Somebody, a friend of mine that had a friend was in the housing piece, so we put them in the house, and the guy, they said he had a job. My point is this. She got 5 kids, and so then she comes up. They firebound the house because they couldn't pay the rent. Then when they come up, she's pregnant again. So I'm saved and sanctified and filled with the Holy Ghost, but I just basically just went off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because how in the world, you know what I'm saying? And I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that the mindset of these young ladies and women, and I'm sure that I'm on my 5th second chance now, so I can't be judged. I can't be judging nobody. You understand what I'm saying? But I guess I'm just saying to you is that this has got to be traumatic, and parents don't seem to understand the responsibility of really having a child and raising a child, and understand every child you have, that basically without a man or a husband, a support system, the possibility you getting out of poverty is it's almost impossible.
Absolutely.
But you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's not possible, but in the old days, my grandmother had, I think she had 16 kids, okay, but it made it somehow, some kind of way. But I'm just saying to you is that we have to understand what's going on in the mindset of these young people. But let me just take a break and let's talk about the solutions for about 10 minutes or so. I appreciate your patience with me. We're going to go over just about 10 minutes over the hour and talk about the solution of how we can help foster care here in the city of Detroit and southeastern Michigan in particular, in general, and city of Detroit in particular. We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
Say a little prayer for you, and I will always care for you. Hello, Detroit.